Okay, so we're still doing antiderivative integration, and we're going to deal with trig functions. And if we think backwards, if I want to do the integral of sine x, well, I know the derivative, that is going to be cosine x. But the derivative of cosine x is negative sine, so let's combat that. So it's going to be negative cosine x plus c. So be really careful with these positive negatives. I always have to think really carefully about that. So the derivative of cosine x is negative sine. And so the integral of cosine x is going to be sine x plus c. The derivative of this is just a positive cosine. And finally, 1 over cosine squared is going to be tangent x plus c. And so here are all the standard integrals that we've done. We've looked at all of them, and now we have our trig function. And we really have to be careful with this negative value here. And these in our formula booklet, and these are ones that we need to be familiar with. So let's try an example here. We want to find the function is given by f prime x is 2 cosine 3 sine minus 3 sine, where this is true. So if I want to find my function f of x, well, I know cosine, if I look at my formula here, the antiderivative of cosine x is just sine x, and the coefficient just stays as is. And then I want to do the antiderivative of sine x, well, that's going to be minus cosine x. And so that will mean this will be plus 3 cosine x plus c. And so you have to be really careful about the pluses and minuses. I have to think about those really carefully myself each time. And so then plugging this value in, I know f prime pi by 4 is 2 sine pi by 4 plus 3 cosine of pi by 4 plus c is going to be 1 over root 2. Well, I know that sine pi by 4 is equal to 1 over root 2, exactly, or which is the same as root 2 over 2. But because I got a 1 over root 2 here, I'm going to keep it in this form. Plus 3, 1 over root 2, plus c, equal to 1 over root 2. Now one of the things you can do though is you can use your calculator for all this, and so you can do it this way, that way as well. And so when I do this, I have 5 over root 2 plus c is equal to 1 over root 2. Subtracted over c is equal to minus 4 over root 2. Simplifying that or rationalizing it, I'm going to do this trick here, which gives me minus 4 over root 2 over 2, which is minus 2 root 2. Again, you could use your calculator for that. And so I know my final function, f of x, will be 2 sine x plus 3 cosine x minus 2 root 2. And here is my final function. You guys can use your calculator for all these trig values. I know them exactly, and it's easier for me to do it without my calculator screen taking up half my screen. Let's try another example. So we want to find the integral of theta minus sine 2 theta d theta. Well, be careful here because there's no trig function on this theta. So that's just like theta, I add 1, so it's squared to the 1/2 divided by the reciprocal of the exponent. Because this is like just x. And then I have minus sine 2 theta. Well, I know it's going to be cosine 2 theta. Remember, inside here, I have to counteract the chain rule, so I'm going to divide by the 1/2 plus c. Now you notice I've forgotten the negative sign. Think about this carefully. The derivative of cosine is negative sine. So that means I will make this negative. So I have to make this a positive. It's going to change the sign. So I'm going from sine to cosine. If I look here, I'm going from sine to cosine. It's negative, changing the sign. So I have to change what's there. Be really careful of the positives and negatives. One more example will do. Now we're told find f of x where the second derivative is 1 plus cosine x, where f prime at 0 equals 3, and f at 1 is negative cos of 1. So in order to find the function, I have the second derivative, I have to undo it twice. So antiderivative of this one gives me 1 becomes x, cosine x, well, The derivative of sine is a positive cosine, so it stays the same, plus c. And in order to find my c value, I can use this point here. So I know that 3 is equal to, well, x is 0 plus the sine of 0 plus c. The sine of 0 I know is 0, and so 3 is equal to cosine. So my first derivative is equal to x plus sine x plus 3. Going back one more step, so now I have x, I add 1 to the exponent, divide by the reciprocal. I have cosine of x, the derivative of cosine is negative sine. So I have to change the sign, plus 3x, plus we'll call it d. I'm going to use a different variable so it's not confused. And I have this to deal with. So I know that negative cosine 1 is equal to 1/2 times 1 squared minus cosine of 1 plus 3 times 1 plus d. Well, these cancel away, and so 0 is equal to 1/2 plus 3 plus d. And so d is equal to 3.5 negative, because I can bring those over. And so putting it all together, what I can say is that f of x is equal to 1/2 x squared minus cosine x plus 3x minus 3.5. And there's your introduction to antiderivatives with all the functions that we know.